Hello, Internet, and welcome to another Wednesday Serial. I am here to recap what I read this week and maybe just a little bit more. Let's get to it. Yeah, la la la. Alright, I didn't get any independent, because I don't get that much independent anymore, I guess. Also, it was a weird week. But, Spider-Woman 10 in Civil War 2. Interesting. I kind of got a glimpse of everything going on in Civil War, and it seems interesting, but it's also kind of funny how much I was able to extrapolate from one comic. It's an interesting exercise I haven't put myself through about ever. And interesting for that. The comic itself was a little pithy. They had a little fun, but then it ends in this dark place, and you're going to get maybe a little more of this cover next time, because what this was Jessica going around testing these precogs theories, seeing if they were in fact true, trying to poke holes in it, and couldn't. But then this ends on, I don't know if it's spoilers or not for Civil War, so I don't even want to get to it, but big dramatic whatchamajoo that's going to have her probably investigating and fighting Captain Marvel, and they've been best buds throughout this entire book. And honestly, I know it's supposed to be the whole fighting people you know, relationships divided, new ones forged, but this just feels like a loss. The idea of this friendship being broken up, like, I was kind of invested in it, because these were two characters I really liked and grown to really like, and I had to stop reading Captain Marvel because it was too tied in to other events, but I was reading her book when it was her book. And now them not being buds, it makes me less invested in the Marvel Universe, and I'm just going to tangent here for a minute, because with Marvel killing off X-Men because of stupid behind-the-scenes political reasons and bringing in the Inhumans, who cares about the Inhumans, I'm really honestly at a point where I'm kind of like, fuck Marvel, but I'm not going to make some big dramatic whatever. I'm just very uninclined to pick up new books. I'm definitely going to keep reading Amazing Spider-Man. Because of this, Spider-Woman's a little dicier. We'll see how it turns out for a few issues. And then Spider-Gwen, hope that keeps going, but I'm honestly wondering how long that book's going to run at this point. And not very interested in picking up anything else Marvel, because my two big Marvel sections are Spider-Man and X books, and if they're not doing that much, I don't have a reason to be reading much Marvel, which is kind of good right now because I'm picking up a lot of DC, and I'm going to have to hedge that down. That's just a matter of my attention being divided too many ways, me trying to remember which is which, because some of the books do kind of blend together, which I'm starting to notice, which is interesting. But, yeah. So, there we are. And that's my review of Spider-Woman. Yeah, that went weird. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man. This is the Dead No More arc starting up, which is really playing on a lot of threads that have been building through this entire new run, basically, and a few threads from before it, and none of the big event that is what most of this run has been so far. But I do really appreciate that they're bringing in some drama. The Jameson family's back. This comic starts with Jameson Sr. It's not the J. Jonah we know, but Jameson Sr. In a hospital. There's a bit of medical drama. And throughout this, they're introducing this company, New You, which is run by various spider villains, as it turns out. And there's clearly an element of cloning going on. They say as much. The idea is to do something actually better than cloning, but to grow new organs or whatnot that are fresh, but based on the old ones. So it would be the right blood type, the right whatever the body needs, but effectively new, but for a grown person, presumably. You know, Magic comic books are not going too thick in the weeds on this, right? But it's an interesting idea, but we start seeing fully formed dead people showing up. And some of the ones that they chose to do so far are actually really interesting, given some of the past slot Spider stories. And seeing the human drama of people who are coming back from the dead is trite in comics, right? But this is such an interesting twist because these aren't the superheroes. These aren't the characters that normally come back. These are C-list characters. These are relationship of side character people coming back. And I wish I could dive a little more on this, but it would be a huge spoiler for this issue, so too soon. But this play of bringing people back from the dead and in this light, and you know it's all going to go belly up, is interesting and dramatic in a way that bringing people back from the dead hasn't been to me in about ever. So this is going to be a hat trick, but if Slott can pull this off, this will have some interesting connotations that I'm not sure that people are going to give him enough credit for. Because his thesis, what he's trying to pull off, stated in this issue, if he can actually make this story work and make it sing, it would be something of a first in decades in superhero comics. So I'm nervous but optimistic, but either way I am completely intrigued with this new arc. So yeah, but if you're looking to jump on Spider-Man, this would be such a terrible time to jump on, because the implications and soap drama that you'd be writing into, you wouldn't know quite the weight or the understanding of it. They kind of set it up, but I don't know. On the other hand, at this point, I don't know if you can just jump into Spider-Man ever. At a certain point, you just kind of have to jump in where you want to if you're going to attempt to at all. So, next up is Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, which I really wish they'd just call Birds of Prey. But that's a pet peeve. Also, another pet peeve that is going to be done with soon, but dear Lord, this is issue 2. It's issue 1. The whole rebirth versus under rebirth. What the just call it issue 1. Who cares? It's so stupid. Anyways, this felt like Birds of Prey in a way it didn't in the New 52 the entire time. The New 52, they tried to relaunch Birds of Prey out of nowhere, and where it was coming from right before the New 52 was like this expanded cast with nearly every important femme solo character in the DC universe. Exceptions, I'm sure, but a large portion. It was a very pro-femme book, and it was fun. But it was past the Simone run, which is where it was singing highest. And this is something of a return to form, but also kind of the reboot that I think they were going for when they started the New 52. But the Birds of Prey, the New 52, had some random characters in it, like Poison Ivy, which was supposed to be interesting, but they played such a long game with her being back and forth and kind of a double agent, but only for herself, and trying to hide her motivations, but her motivations were always maleficent and unclear, and why she was ever with the team never made sense. The whole book was something of a mess. This Birds of Prey is a new Birds of Prey. You have this new Batgirl on it, which I'm not thrilled about, but here we are. We have this Black Canary who's coming off of the rocker angle and whatnot, but in a lot of ways she's back to being kind of the martial arts, but she's a bit more superhero than the martial arts angle where she was before, and kicking ass and being interesting. But a lot of years of experience taken away. But in a lot of ways it reads more like she used to be, maybe a little more punk rock in some ways, which is a cool take on the character. I can ride with that. And then Huntress is kind of at square one. She's supposedly in charge of the spy agency, but now she's gone rogue, and she's tracking down mafiosos and killing them, which is where Huntress started. and now she's basically back there, but now she has this old baggage. They kind of have a play with some of the characters knowing Nightwing in different ways, which will tie to is kind of an interesting through line throughout some DC comics right now. But this is interesting. This isn't the height of Birds of Prey for me, but this is a fun book. I'm curious to see where it's going. And right now they were fighting against these, serpent or snake bad guys. So you're getting the fun villains and not just mafiosos, but they are fighting smaller crime. They're not dealing with the Joker or Darkseid or something like that. Like, this felt like a comic where interesting things could happen because we weren't dealing with these rogue characters that they're not allowed to play with. There are a lot of characters here that they're allowed to play with. I just don't honestly think any of these three are in danger of being, actually axed in the middle of the comic. And I'm fine with that. But there's so many other characters, and it's not just whether or not a character can be alive or dead at the end of it that makes for interesting drama. But the fact that a few other characters in here could be, or something else could happen to them, and then they could just be taken out of the action for emotional reasons or whatever, is interesting. This is an interesting side of DC again, so I'm very much interested to see where this will go. This is one of the books that I can't imagine dropping anytime soon. And also, there's these two Bensons writing, Aro doing art. There's a whole bunch of names on here that I've never heard of before. I'm sure if they got to a big DC book, they have some priors, and I'm actually interested to go back and check that out at some point. And this feels like some of the fresh blood that they were trying to go for back in the day, and here we are, and we have it. And that's pretty cool. Birds of Prey, man. Come on. Alright, then Nightwing 3 or 4. Here, Batgirl is showing up here. Dick stood her up last time because he's a dick. And yeah, there's this whole thing where he's fading in her eyes, and that's a fairly big thing given their past. And as Dick goes deeper and deeper into this Courts of Owls undercover thing, but they seem to be aware that he's trying to do it anyways. But this is starting to cycle around, but with the next issue looking like there's just going to be another heist, and Nightwing, this other guy, I'm kind of wondering if this book is slowing down, and maybe is kind of slowing down because they don't want to make any big plays before this big crossover between Batman, Nightwing, and Detective Comics happens. I wonder if that's going to hold the book up, but I think that would only be a couple issues, and maybe giving a couple issues to breathe wouldn't be the worst thing to slow it down. So I'm kind of curious about it, but it wasn't the strongest in the pile this week is the way I put it, but it was interesting, but I'm just not as super curious as to where this is going right now. But I'm going to hold on because I'm holding on to those 3 books at least till the crossover is over and done with, because I just kind of want to read it out. So, yeah, for big Nightwing fans, I'm not sure that this is the best book, but it has to feel like something of a return to form, but also taking from the Grayson book that happened, which wasn't my taste at all. So, meh. Okay. Batman, 6, essentially, right? Well, maybe not. 5, yeah, I think 5 works because Batman had that one issue, but that was for 2 comics at once. So Batman 5 with this whole Gotham thing. This didn't end how I thought it was going to end at all. This was actually a really surprising end for me, and it actually makes me more invested in a lot of characters. And there's a few small moments in here. The calling in of the cavalry, the way that they start off, because there's been a lot of play between Alfred and Bruce in this book, and there was another interesting play in this issue that I thought was supposed to wrap more into the Gotham Girl dynamic, and talking about maybe a bit of how they maybe don't have that influence in their life, or how they play off of each other in a weird way. And I just, as much as I want to think there's something there, I really couldn't find any textual meat to really tie it together. But I'm kind of wondering if it's more of a long play of really addressing this Alfred Bruce dynamic, and if something is going to maybe come to a head there in one way or another. I actually think it could make for some interesting drama to maybe shake that dynamic up in a much more organic way than trying to have like the Joker cut his hand off or something, but maybe play with their relationship in a real way. I'm hoping that's coming around the bend, and part of the reason I'm reading so much into that right now is because that is like the first third of this book is the play with Alfred. Part of it's fun and just part of the story. Also makes for an interesting image in here. But yeah, this ended stronger than it began. That's a rare thing. That is a rare thing in comics. And that makes me more willing to hang on to Batman for a while, no doubt. And I was going to anyways, but now I'm really glad I read through at least. But even liking it more now, I still don't feel it's as strong as Detective, and it's just, it's one of those books, it's like, man, you know, DC has a lot of good books going right now, but how many are great? And that's going to be a question we're all going to have to answer for ourselves here soon, because I have a feeling a lot of us are trying more DC than we could rightfully keep going with for a year or whatnot. Alright, Green Arrow 5. End of an arc. And I don't know. Green Arrow's kind of hitting me in a way like Wonder Woman is right now, but in different ways, obviously. The reason I make that connection, and it only works in my head, is that part of the reason I'm reading Green Arrow is because Travis got me hooked on Green Arrow, and I kind of want to keep that going. Kind of like Cammy really got me hooked on Wonder Woman, I kind of want to keep that going. But these books aren't speaking to me as much as some of the others, and where this issue ends was such a groaner, and the way that the fighting happens, it's like the power of love just overcomes, it's annoying. It just wasn't played out very well. It's horribly paced. There's an entire half page that's effectively wasted when they could have really used it to flesh out a big fight that 5 issues have been building to. Yeah. And, man, I don't know. Green Arrow is just... It's alright. It's not a bad book, but you could be reading something better. I could be reading something better. That's just kind of where it feels right now. I don't know. Alright. Titans 2. This is a significant downdrop from their first issue, and man, this feels like a 90s comic in about the worst way. The big reveal at the end is that they're going to fight a villain after a lot of weird drama and them sitting around eating pizza. This is the kind of issue that when people were tearing Bendis down in Avengers, this was the mold. If you're looking for a DC book to skip, this is probably the top of that pile. So the bottom of the pile you should consider. Yeah, don't bother with Titans. That's it. And last, holy crap, last, I have to make another video. That's how much this is. I'm just going to make another video and separate it. So, catch y'all soon with another comic review.